All right, for question 33, I think this was from the first test or second test, one of the earlier ones. We have three functions right here. The first one is a quadratic, the second one is a linear, and the third one is a step function. The key thing right here is that this is called a piecewise function, meaning that you would only use the piece if the x value falls into the particular interval. Like for the first one, g of -5. When you look at g of -5, then we'll say, well, x is equal to -5. And as a result, we will use the top equation because the top equation is valid when x is less than or equal to -1. Now, it's a good practice for pre-cal and for any math courses, really. You should always show your substitution first before you show any computation. So do not rush to write down 25. Okay, that's not going to help anyone. That would cause more harm than anything else. So you have 25 minus 3, which gives you 22. So the answer is 22. Okay, so I mean, it's very explicit. You know why we use the top equation, because the x value is less than -1. So if you know how to interpret it, no one should miss this question. No one, literally no one. All right, second one, g of -2/3. So g is, well, you look at g function and the x value is -2/3. So we will use the middle one because -2/3 it's just slightly greater than -1. So we'll use the middle equation. Again, we will show our substitution. Okay, like this. So the 3 and the 3 we cancel each other out. So you have -2 minus 1, which will give you -3. Okay, g of -2/3 would be -3. And then we have g of 1. G of 1 would be, well, we will use the middle equation still because 1 is right in between -1 and 2. So 3 times 1 minus 1, which is 3 minus 1, which is 2. Okay, so g of 1 is equal to 2. G of 2, well, if x is equal to 2, we will still use the middle equation because that works when x is equal to 2. Okay, we will not use the third equation because the bottom equation is when x is greater than 2. So you have 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 6 minus 1, which is 5. Okay, make sure you know what to think when you look at these function notations. G of -1, we will use the top equation because that's when x is equal to -1. So we show our substitution again. So that becomes 1 minus 3, which we will have -2 as the answer. G of 0, we have 3 times 0 minus 1, and you have 0 minus 1, which is -1. Okay, use the middle equation when x is equal to 0. The next one, g of 1 and 2/3. We'll still use the middle equation. So 3 times 1 and 2/3, which I would change it to improper fraction in just a moment. So 5/3 minus 1, so 5 minus 1, which is 4. We've got a 4 right here. Okay. All right, g of pi. Now, I think by now everyone should know what pi is. Pi as a number is, 3.14-ish, right? So we just go ahead and think it that way. And for this part, I think it's okay to use 3.14 as a close approximate. And we'll use the last equation because pi is 3.14-ish, which is greater than 2. So we have step function of 2 times 3.14 minus 9. Okay, so we have 6.28 minus 9. And so you have a step function of of negative 2.72. Now, this is where the trouble comes in, okay? What is a step function? And by the way, I remember when I was grading this test, some students, they mistaken this step function as an absolute value function. They are totally two different things. Now, what's a step function? Step function is where you would always go back to the previous integer, okay? So what I would do is this: I would give myself some easy examples, such as what is the step function of 1.4? So I'm going to draw a little number line right here, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if the value it's 0, 1. If the value is 1.4, right here, well then step function of 1.4 would be 1. So it goes back to the previous integer, okay? Now, and then for this particular question, you can think about, well, what if it is negative 2.72? What is negative 2.72 inside the step function? Well, you can visualize it. You'll be like, well, it's somewhere right here, okay? In between negative 2 and negative 3. And then it will go back to the previous integer, a negative 3. Okay, so the answer is negative 3. Okay, so step function of negative 2.72, it's going to be negative 3. That's a previous integer. Okay, so I would say probably you should expect to see 1 or 2 questions with step functions. Step function, okay, not a lot, but definitely 1 or 2, and make sure you know how to handle this situation. And for pi, it is 3.14. We're not talking about degrees here. We're just talking about numbers, so it is 3.14. All right, so you can just use 3.14 as a good approximate, and then compute the numbers, and then you can make your sound conclusion using a number line if you need to visualize it better.